Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Be Fierce and Try podcast. Today, I'm here with several guests who all raced at the recent Ironman Canada event in Ottawa, and we're going to chat about the course. So I'll leave it to Elizabeth, Angela, and Cheryl to introduce themselves. I'm Jill Bartholomew, your host, and today we're going to walk through what we thought of the course, how we prepared for it, and kind of some final thoughts on, would we do it again? Elizabeth, why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go over to Angela.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Jill, Cheryl, Angela. Nice to see you guys again, not in spandex. So I'm Elizabeth Wood. I've been a triathlete for about 15 years, and I've been associated with Ironman Foundation for the last 7 of those. I'm currently on the board of directors for Ironman Foundation. One of the things that I do in terms of my involvement with the foundation is I'm very active in building and leading our teams of women who go to the World Championships, and this year that's Kona. So I'm really thrilled that the 3 other women on the podcast today are all members of our 2025 Kona team. The Ironman Canada in Ottawa was my 9th full Ironman, and I have done 10 70.3 races. So really excited to hear what Angela and Cheryl thought about it and share some of that information with your listeners, Jill.
All right, thanks. Angela?
Hubbard from Burlington, Ontario. So this is kind of like Ottawa was a hometown race kind of for me because it was relatively close. I'm a mom of 4 boys, and this is my third Ironman, and probably I've done about 6.
I heard the Canada in there.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Angela. Cheryl?
Hi, I'm Cheryl Bergeron. I live in New York City. Let's see. Ironman Canada was my 8th full distance Ironman, and I've done about 26, 27, and I don't even know how many other little ones, but I've been in triathlete for about 15 years. I thought once the kids were older, it would get easier, but it doesn't. I work part-time so that I can train the other times. And my husband and I do these together. He also raced, but I get to go to Kona without him this year, although he is going to be Sherping, so that's fun.
So you're both going to Kona.
But only one of you gets to race. Only one of us is crossing that finish line.
That'd be a little strange if he was racing in the women's race. All right. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. Thank you all. So what I'm taking away from this is across the 4 of us, I think we've crossed around 30 full distance Ironman finish lines, which is perfect. All right. So before we talk about the race, as we were saying earlier, across the 4 of us, there's a lot of experience with Ironman branded races. So what did you do to prepare for this one? This is
I'll go. Yeah, I can go. So this race was not my A race. Kona is my A race this year. And so really my training has been geared towards Kona. So typical doing some hill work, doing obviously the endurance work, both for the bike and the run, the swim, just building up the endurance. The last few weeks before I went to Ottawa, my coach had me do a couple of flat 100-mile rides, and that was supposed to be very, very course specific. So I think that's really the only thing that I did that was kind of a nod to the course.
And remind me, where are you from again? That you can get flat 100 miles?
Yeah, so I live in, I know, right? So I live in West Michigan now, which is very flat. Unlike you, Jill, I have a hard time finding hills. And so it was other than finding the distance, finding something flat here was pretty easy.
Yeah, here in Southeast Pennsylvania, in order to find flat, I have to ride on rails to trails, kind of paved trails.
And then you're dodging all the pedestrians.
Otherwise it's like 900 to 1200 every 10 miles kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cheryl, did you do anything different to prepare? You're going to Kona, so was this just a stop on the way?
Much like Elizabeth, my A race is Kona, but we go up to Lake Placid as often as we can to train there because in New York, there's very few opportunities to even ride outside, especially where I am on Staten Island. It's just not, it's very dangerous. There's no I can go for like maybe 5K loops at one of the marinas, but it's really better to just get out of town. So we've been trying to go take our bikes with us wherever we go, to try to get some good rides in. And Lake Placid is one of our favorite destinations. So also the open water swim in Lake Placid is, like, again, one of the only places we can go open water swim. I have not been running very much. I've had a series of injuries over the past year. So my strategy for fulls and Kona, especially right now, is just to swim a lot, strength train. I'm working with a mobility coach to keep everything flexible so that when it comes time to run, I'm not overtrained. So that was a little disastrous on this race. But yeah, the other thing that I was doing is trying to work on my nutrition, which is something that I've kind of ignored up until now, but I know Kona is no joke, so you need to nail that. So I've been really trying to, every run that I do, try to do something very hot and see what I need to take in terms of salt and carbs to get through it.
And what was the injury that you had that you're working around?
I had a stress fracture in my hip in 2019. And so it's always kind of, I don't know if it's just in my head that I feel like every time I feel a twinge in my hip, I'm like, oh, it's broken again. And then more recently, Achilles tendon has been really flaring up. Running in me, I did the New York City Marathon last year and really kind of did a really, not fast, but a really good marathon. And I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I was like, oh, everything just worked. The day was good. It was not hot. My nutrition, I got nailed. I didn't go too fast and nothing hurt. It was just a really good
Isn't
race,
it awesome when things just like fall together like that?
And then sometimes things fall apart.
Yeah. Well, so if it makes you feel any better, I had a femoral shaft fracture that was like 95% through the shaft 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And in the fall of last year, I was still having the every twinge must be a new fracture. I have countless MRIs and x-rays of that one because I kept going in and I'm like, can you just reassure me that it's not broken again?
Yeah. Yeah. I do it every fall.
Yeah, I totally get it. All right. And Angela.
So same as the rest of you. Kona's my A race. So I was going into Ottawa kind of thinking it'll be a good chance to test my nutrition. Nutrition is a big deal for me. I'm a kind of a longer, like my first two Ironman were like just over 15 hours. So I was like, okay, I'm out there a long time. I want to make sure my nutrition's on. I was training the bike on like hills in Muskoka, so you don't really get a lot of flat stuff there, but I kind of got a really nice rolling section where I was able to just kind of go out and back. And so that actually really helped. Like to me, not without getting too much into the course, I didn't like it was basically flat for me based on what I've trained on. So, it was great. I loved the course. And then the other thing, like I said already, my nutrition was something that I in my first two, I really didn't nail. So I was really trying to get that down and wanted to make sure that in the heat, I'd be able to do it because I did know, like watching the Canadian weather, it's been really, really hot. So I knew we'd probably have heat, even though a couple weeks ahead it was going to be a really nice temperature. But then that changed come race day. So yeah, so nutrition was a big thing for me, and I thought I nailed it in training, but I didn't. So it changed all on race day. So yeah, that was one thing that I worked on, but I'm back to the drawing board. Like last night, this morning, I'm all looking up how to tweak my nutrition now.
Yeah. If you listen to my recent
I
episode
did. I
about
listened
Lake
to Lake
Placid,
Placid. Yes.
I had kind of the same problem where, I've been using kind of more or less the same nutrition plan for like the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And then, my coach and I were experimenting with a different nutrition plan that was more like fat adapted versus like
Okay.
carb based, so less carbs.
Yep.
And had some other like products in it to help promote like the fat burning aspect. Yeah, like
Did it
totally.
work?
No.
No. Okay. I'm looking for all new ideas. I've got 2 months.
So I was expecting a 530 plus or minus bike, and it was like 618. And it wasn't because I wasn't physically prepared for a 5:30 bike. It was because my nutrition was so off that at one point, like my legs were so on fire that like what would normally be like an easy, output,
Sure.
like take like 30% off and it felt hard. So, and like that's when you get to that point where like your body no longer has any glucose to burn
Mhm.
and it's now like devouring anything that I can
That
find,
can, yeah.
which is not good. All right. So I think it's awesome for folks here all going to Kona. We'll talk more about that later, I'm sure. But let's talk about the swim. How'd the swim go?
I had an
Puppy.
amazing swim.
I was just
It
saying
was
on
choppy. It
paper,
was choppy. Yeah. It was super
on
choppy.
paper, it looks like it should be an awesome swim.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys know or you ladies notice this, but when like you're about to get into the swim, like you're looking out and you're like, the water looks great. And then like you swim in a few strokes and you're like, oh, wait a second. No, it was really choppy. So,
Yeah,
and then I mean,
yeah.
let's talk about the walking section, right? The island and halfway or whatever that you you're swimming along and you look up and you see people. I didn't even know what these people were doing at first because it took me a little
They
while
were
to.
walking.
Yeah, and I was like, what's happening over there? Like, did someone drown or something? Why are all those people gathered there? And then a few more strokes and you look again, you're like, they're walking. I did not get up and walk because when I reached the island, there were some mussels, like clams and stuff like that or whatever. And I was like, I'm not standing up because I don't know what I'm gonna hit with my feet. So kept swimming and digging weeds and stuff like that and just kept going. Had to pull some weeds off of my goggles and I have a feeling
Well, I
next
mean,
year, if they change it, they'll go around that section, but
yeah, I
it
mean,
wasn't bad.
so what was it like an actual island or just like
So,
a sandbar
Okay.
kind of thing?
yeah, so apparently, I was like, the more I read, apparently this section, the water is pretty high right now. So normally this section would actually be out of the water. So they would have gone around it or something. But anyway, but yeah, you could, I don't know. You didn't see
You
it
could
because the
you
water was
could
so
stand
high,
up
but
and trudge forward.
Yeah.
yeah,
Interestingly, we stayed with some locals, and he swims there a lot, or like maybe a little bit, not right at Britannia Beach, but a little like maybe like a kilometer south of there. And he said to me, he was like, "How are you going to swim that? There's like this big shallow area where you're going to have to like walk or whatever." And I was like, and I kind of dismissed the comment, like, "Well, they wouldn't put the course through a shallow area." But when we got
right.
to that, I was like, "Oh,
So you
that's what
know,
he's talking
yeah,
about." So I guess they just ignored it. So,
yeah.
And
I
so
was,
when I got to it and I saw people standing, I kind of was like,
you
oh,
knew,
it clicked. I was like, but I didn't stand because we had done Muscle Man and everybody that did the practice swim and tried to get out off the rocks sliced up their feet. So I was like, my feet are not touching anything down here if it's not perfectly soft sand. And it
those
wasn't. So
cuts take a
just
long
kept
time to
swimming.
heal.
yeah. I
So, Elizabeth,
in
did you
this,
walk on the
Did
swim?
not. No, I typically swim on the inside of the sighting buoys. So I
Mhm.
was a little further to the left. And I will say that in the practice swim a little bit, but definitely on race day, the water weeds, yuck. But I knew they were going to be there because I had done some practice swimming actually over at the beach, which is a little to the right of where the race starts. But yeah, I'm like Angela. I'm like, what are those people doing? But I was not going to put my feet down, and it was just deep enough that I could still get strokes.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah, as I was
yeah.
thinking,
I thought the swim was good.
like
So,
running through water is maybe harder than swimming through it,
exactly.
yeah.
That's the other
right?
thing too. Yeah.
I'm guessing nobody was running. Like I feel like they might have been like trudging a little bit or something,
Mhm.
but no one was
hmm
running. So
Yeah, I didn't see any running, and
it
I
it
Yeah.
kept
wouldn't I
thinking.
wouldn't have been running
Go ahead,
friendly.
Angela.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say it wouldn't have been running friendly, right? You'd have to be careful with your stepping.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You go
Right.
about 500 meters, 500 yards out, and then you make a left. And both of those were choppy. And so I kept telling myself, well, on the way back, we're going to have a nice assist. And I felt it maybe a few times, but not to the
Not
degree that I
really.
thought I would, given how choppy it was going out. I did feel like maybe it was because Canadians are so nice. But this was probably the race where I had the least amount of going around the turn buoys. Normally there's like
Hmm.
flailing and people breaststroking and practically kicking you in the face. And I found that the turn buoys were not congested. Maybe people were just swimming wider. I don't know, but I thought the swim was great.
See, I've had like mixed results on that. Like at Lake Placid, I actually didn't feel like the turnberries were super congested. But when I was at, Texas this year, it was very congested. It's not the words I want to use, but it's very congested.
I found
I
the
feel
same. I
like
didn't get too jostled around in the swim, but I also swam wide. So trying
Yeah.
to make sure I stay away from people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jill, I don't
so.
know if, oh, go ahead, Cheryl.
No, I was just going to say that I started farther back than I normally would because my husband and I were doing this together. And since I was like, this is not my A race, I'm not going to try to push my way up to the front. We just kind of hung back, and he's a slower swimmer than I am. So I definitely started back farther than I would have normally. And I got kicked in the face a lot because I would come up onto people and it was so murky, you couldn't see the feet until they were like right there. So I was constantly trying to get around people, and they would there would be contact. So I tried to swim a little wider. I felt the current was pulling me back towards the shore the whole time going out. So I was constantly correcting, running into people. People were going crooked. I was like, you know what? Next time I'm just going to start in the corral that I'm going to start in.
Yeah.
It was too, I felt bad. I felt like I was the asshole swimming over. I tried very, very hard not to like swim over people, but I was clearly not in the right place.
Especially if you're starting like towards the back. If you're a faster swimmer, it's kind of hard not to, because some of those people you're swimming over are not going to finish to swim.
I mean, we weren't like in the back. We started in like the 130 or whatever the 120, 130.
Yeah, it's not that slow.
Like in the middle.
It wasn't that slow because that's what my husband usually does. So I was surprised, but like my swim was probably one of the slowest swims in an Ironman that I've done so far. So.
Yeah. Okay.
My thoughts during the swim.
One thing that go ahead, Angela, because mine's a little more overarching than just specifically the swim.
Okay, yeah. So my thought during the swim was there's going to be a lot of people who aren't going to finish the swim because like I'm not a fast swimmer, but I'm a strong swimmer. So I'm swimming and I'm like, the water's hitting me in the face, and I can breathe both sides. So I just switch side I'm breathing on depending where the waves are coming. But my thought was there's people who are not going to be able to handle this. Like if they're used to swimming in nice calm water, they're going to freak out. They're going to like I was curious how many DNF to swim. I don't know that I ever got that information, but I feel like it would have been more than a regular nice calm swim.
I saw a post on Facebook, and I didn't fact check it, but it looked like there was over 20% DNF on this race.
Really? Yeah.
Over how much, Jill?
It looked high.
20%. That's high.
Yeah.
Between the swim and the heat.
Yeah, as a usual.
Smoke.
Typical Ironman is like 10-13%.
Yeah.
So it looked like it was a bit on the high side, but
it wasn't due to the course. It would have been the other conditions that people would have.
Yeah, I was going to ask, about the smoke. Saw the warnings that it might possibly affect the race.
It did, for sure.
It did. So, where do you think it affected you the most? Like the run, maybe?
Like I noticed it right away on the bike.
Okay.
And for me, it was just like a headache all day on the bike. And so I'm thinking, and that's not unusual for me, but usually it's like, I've tightened my MIPS liner too tight. And so, loosen off the helmet, or, the further I get into the bike, well, okay, maybe I'm a little bit behind on my electrolytes or on my water, but this was like in the first hour. And so I knew that it wasn't my nutrition. I loosened my helmet. And that, like, at one point I was so frustrated, I like basically loosened the MIPS liner like completely. I'm like, well, that's not really very safe. So, because if I crash, then, it's not really going to protect my head. But it was just so frustrating to have that low grade headache all day long. And then I'm going to be interested to hear Angela and Cheryl's experience on the run. Of course, there's the heat. And I don't, I've certainly never raced with wildfire smoke, with poor air quality like that. And I know some of the symptoms of it, but I experienced things on the run that I've never experienced before, even in Kona. And I've raced in Kona twice. So I'm being interested to hear what you guys experienced from the wildfire smoke, but it definitely impacted.
It's interesting
I felt
because
it on the swim for sure. I mean, I felt it in my throat. I had 2 episodes of like coughing fits in the swim where it's like, breathe, cough. My throat was irritated all day. It's much like your headache.
How about you,
I
Angela?
don't think during the race I thought that I was affected by it. Like definitely during the swim, when you're swimming and you can see the sun is red and it's hazier, like the smoke, clearly the smoke is here, but like didn't think I could feel it. I had a friend who actually didn't start the race because of the
She
smoke,
didn't.
because she was already like coughing in the morning, so she didn't even start. And it was probably a good decision in the end. Through the day, I kept thinking, like, I don't think I'm noticing it. I don't think I'm noticing it. But the next morning, I woke up with like a terrible headache, and like my throat hurt. And I was like, I did like, it's here. Like I can feel it. It has affected
Mhm.
me. So perhaps that was part of what affected me on the run. But at the time, I was attributing it to other things for sure. But yeah, later on, I was like, no, that was probably partly smoke.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Like I can't imagine it didn't affect you in some way.
Yeah, no, it would have for
Right. There's
sure.
no way that it couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Jill,
right.
one thing that I want to mention before we move on to the bike is about the setup of the course. So your listeners may or may not know that this was a split transition course. And so the T2 and the finish line are right in downtown Ottawa by Parliament. It's like a great atmosphere for the finish line. But you start about, I think it's like about 10 miles south of there at Britannia Beach. So, you know, it just adds, they did a great job managing it. I want to say that. I thought that the race director and all of the volunteers and staff did a great job managing it. But when you're racing Ironman, it just adds that extra level of complexity, right? To have to get your bike and your T1 bag to another location where there's literally no parking. And then on race morning, mandatory shuttles, because again, no parking. So
Yeah,
like I got up at 3.
I saw there's a lot of confusion in the lead up to the race around the
Yes.
shuttles. How
I
did
Yeah.
thought
that?
that at least for me on race day, everything went very smoothly. I got up earlier than I ordinarily would have because I just
Okay.
wanted to allow for, it's the first time they've done this. Maybe they're not going to have enough
You sleep
buses.
the night before race? Can we like talk about
I
that
actually
for a
got 5.5 hours of sleep, which is so unusual for me. Normally I like get an hour and then I lie there and think, well, just like rest your legs. But yeah, I did
Yeah,
sleep.
the night before a race, I totally have the don't miss your alarm, don't miss your alarm going through my head
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole night. So
Yeah,
like sleep is in like
two
5 minutes.
alarms. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I slept so well, but I like 5.5. But still, it's 5.5. But anyway, on race morning for me, it went. Everything went without a hitch. The shuttles were there. It took a half an hour, which was about what I expected that it would take. And so I was able to just be really calm through it because I had planned for it and had allowed plenty of time. But again, some people, if it's a first race or, you get really anxious about pre-race stuff, that split transition, as I mentioned, just adds that extra level of complexity. And you did not have access to your T2 bags on race morning. You did have access to your T1 bags, all of that. But again, I thought that the race crew handled it really well.
See, I always assume that you're not going to have access to your transition bags on race morning.
Mm-hmm.
So like this year felt kind of weird at some of the races where like people were I saw it at Bow Texas and like Placid where people were like
Putting stuff in.
missing like whole parts of their kit in their bag and putting it in race morning.
Really?
Yeah, like at Texas, there were people putting down empty bags and then the morning of the race going in and putting their
Why
stuff
would
in.
you do that?
And I'm like, what? No.
I thought it was just
Yeah.
for nutrition. Like you can just add your nutrition.
Yeah.
Like I thought you were supposed to
Yeah.
have everything else.
You're
Guess it
supposed to.
doesn't. Guess it
Yeah. This year, I forgot to put my inhaler in one of the bags.
Mm-hmm.
Were you? No. Someone from Foundation helped me get them in.
Andrea, probably.
Actually, I think it might have been Michaela.
Yeah.
And yeah, Andrea wasn't at that race. And yeah, like even that, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get it in. And then I get there and like everybody's hovering over
Sticking around in their bags.
transition bags. Like
Yeah.
it feels strange. But
I just want to go off what Elizabeth said about the transitions and stuff. Felt like execution of like race morning and all that stuff was amazing by organizers, but they could have stemmed a lot of people's anxiety by having more information, or like it almost felt like they were doing some stuff on the fly, or like they added shuttles on the fly for bike drop off and stuff like that. Whereas if it had been planned ahead of time, if the athlete guide had been out sooner, a lot of people would have not spiraled and stressed so much about the two transitions. Like I think the execution of it was actually done quite well, and it wasn't as hard as it seemed like it was going to be, but it seemed like it was going to be hard because there wasn't enough information. Now, I do have to applaud, oh, am I going to get her name wrong? Like one of the co-race directors, I think her name is Aline. She was amazing on the Facebook group of answering questions. Pauline,
It's
is it Pauline?
Pauline.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Pauline Audi.
Yeah, of answering questions. Like, so it was kind of nice to know that you had a race director looking at the Facebook page and answering
That's
questions. So you
unusually
got,
engaged. Yeah.
yeah, so like you got information. And so I sort of like, I was like, it's a first time race. I'm going to try not to freak about everything. And my view was just see how things go before you like say bad stuff about the two transitions or how terrible it is. Like, because it did end up going okay. It was just, the way triathletes are, right? Like we're all spiraling beforehand because you don't know
Hmm.
exactly how things are going to go and whatever. So it did turn out great. I thought they did a great job in the end, but more information up front would have helped ease everybody's anxiety, I think. So it was good. Like it turned out okay.
I have to say that this was the first race that I've done that going to the athlete briefing was absolutely critical because there was a lot of information in the athlete guide, and my favorite uh, page in that guide was like all the different bags, where you drop off and when. Like it was just a visual. Like this
Hmm.
bag has to go here, right? And it wasn't like a lot of text. It was just like, here's what the bag looks like. Here's where it has to go and what time and what day. And it was just that I was like, that's perfect. I took a picture of it, so I had it, just in my things. But there was a lot of information in the athlete briefing that either they didn't know about when they printed the athlete guide, or that just was, you couldn't really even visualize until you got there.
Yeah.
So I said, like, like the 3 laps on the bike, like
Hmm.
all the sign said was laps finish. It's like, well, if you don't know you're doing 3 of those and passing that 2 more times, like that could really go south very quickly. So, and then they would
Yeah.
talk about the shuttles and stuff like that. I've done races with split transitions and they didn't go off as well as this one. This was excellent. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Okay.
have we
Good to
all
excellent.
know.
done
Waiting
split
for the
transitions?
shuttle to get
Or
to the swim start, 10 minutes. I mean, in Ironman California, that was like a 45-minute wait. People were getting to the swim after the first athletes were in the swim. Like it was
Oh,
pardon
wow,
my
that's
French,
stressful.
a shit show.
wow.
So I was like, wow, they learned lessons. They did a
Hmm.
great job. The second thing I would say about that with like expectations and things was that every volunteer on all the days leading up to the race, if I asked a question, everyone knew answers. The volunteers were the best I've ever seen. I mean, I know Lake Placid gets really amazing volunteers, but these guys were enthusiastic. They were smiling. They were triathletes. They had been briefed on a lot of different things that usually you ask a volunteer, like, oh, where do I go
Hmm.
for this? And they're like, oh, I really don't know. I'm just in T1
Yeah.
here. Everybody knew everything. And if they didn't, they asked somebody. It was
So,
really, really well done with volunteers.
so the race director for this race is a very experienced race director. Do you think that that's because the race director kind of, intentionally did that, or because it was the first time they did the race, they maybe over-indexed into it a little bit, or
My
was
understanding
everyone
is that
just super
Ottawa
excited to be there?
Ottawa is a huge event town. Like they run a lot of
Hmm.
like they run marathons, other triathlons, like shorter distances.
Yeah,
And so someone had said like, although it's the first Ironman, like these volunteers it's their first Ironman, it's not their first event, right? So
right.
they kind of know what they're doing in other aspects of too, and they know about triathlon. I feel like the triathlon community in Ontario came out huge to volunteer. So I feel like you had a lot of people already knowing, like it wasn't just some random person off the street who just wanted to volunteer who doesn't really know anything. I think you had a lot of knowledge in the
Okay.
volunteer base already. So I feel like Ottawa does that really well. So I feel like the race directors probably did a great job, like the head volunteers and stuff gave great information, but I feel like you also had a really experienced volunteer base with other races, even if it was their
I
Right.
first
agree.
Ironman. Yeah.
It's a lot of experience and
Yeah,
engagement.
absolutely. Yeah. They were amazing. They were all great.
All right. So split transition. How about the bike? So you finish the swim, walk, swim, and now you're in transition. How'd the bike go?
There was a lot of negativity about this bike. Like that was one of the first things that people were
I
negative
saw
about
that.
on the Facebook page. Like this was terrible. The road conditions were just awful. And I feel like it's totally about your perspective because were there some
I always
sections that were
wonder
bad?
what people are expecting.
Exactly, exactly. And in the information leading up, which was basically the Facebook group, people did say there are sections that are bad, right? So like I went in thinking, okay, there's going to be sections that are bad. There's going to be some sections that are going to be good. So when you see a good section, take advantage of it. And when you see a bad section, be careful. And when you're passing people, be careful because you know they might have to avoid a pothole or something.
Yeah.
So
Swerve.
just, yeah, swerve, be careful. So like my biggest concern was not the road conditions, was the other athletes who were passing me too close, knowing what the road conditions were, right? Like I was like, that's why people would crash, was because the athletes are not respecting the
Mm-hmm.
road conditions, not because they necessarily hit a pothole. Like you have to give people space so that they can like ride to the road conditions. Now, my perspective is probably different than other people. I'm riding at like 20, between 27 and 34 kilometers an hour. Like on average, that's kind of where I'm sitting. And I'm not riding in arrow with my head down, also because I know what the conditions are. So like
Well,
I'm
I mean,
riding.
nobody should be having their head
No,
down.
I know, but like I felt like there was people who were like, yeah, the road conditions were crap the whole way. And I'm like, well, if you were watching the, like, I don't know, I just felt
They
people,
weren't. Yeah,
no,
I
they
mean,
they weren't.
weren't,
anybody
right?
who thinks the road conditions is crap the whole way, they are invited to come
Right.
out and ride with me through Amish
Yeah,
country, Pennsylvania.
Exactly. If you're riding
So
country roads, yeah.
Our state
yeah,
flower is a construction cone.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
so
And I,
for me, it was good. I
yeah,
liked the course.
so I agree with Angela. I had pre-ridden a short section of the bike on Saturday before I turned my bike in. And from just texting with Angela, I knew there were going to be some sections where the road surface was maybe there was like a sort of a construction area. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew that there were going to be some sections, but I felt like the proportion of bad road surface to good road surface, there was, to me, there was much more good road surface. The bad parts were like coming out of the swim, and then the first part of the turnaround when you finish the loop, that was rough.
Mm-hmm.
And then the parts around the city were choppy. There were actually 3 no passing zones, 2 that were right there in the city, and then another one, which we can talk about later. I'm not even sure why it was there. It was like leading up to
Yeah,
an aid station. But then as
that
you
was
got
weird.
out, the course is almost like an M, right? You come out from the swim and you go down south, and then you come back up to the city, and then you go out east. And so there was the part going out east was the longest stretch. And once you got sort of away from town, I thought the road surface was great. I actually rode on the
Yeah.
shoulder because it was smoother.
Hmm.
But the roads were about what I expected, and I don't think they were any different from really any other Ironman. Every course that uses, city or state
Roads.
or whatever
Yeah.
roads, nothing is going to be smooth as silk
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
you're in the north,
Yeah, you've got snow
with the
plows in the
winters.
winter.
if you're like
Exactly.
north of
Snowplow,
the
salt,
Mason-Dixon
cold.
line, the roads
Yeah,
are not gonna be
yeah,
always awesome,
yeah.
Exactly.
Now
right?
I will say that riding in Kona is going to seem really, really smooth compared to that
Right.
course.
I also wanted to just commend Ottawa because wherever it was bad, the orange paint was
Marked.
spot on. They
Yeah,
did an
they did a great
amazing
job.
job marking everything that would have been dangerous. I mean, not like, obviously where it was
Yeah.
just kind of like little cracks or whatever the whole way down, but like if
Mhm.
there was like a part where it was like sort of buckling, they like painted that thing all the way down and
Yeah.
potholes, and
Yeah.
they were very, very well marked sections. I'm like, that to me was
I love it when courses
unusual.
do a really great job at that. Because like you get a couple miles in and you notice like, hey, they did a good job at this, and you can push it a little bit because you can
Yeah,
trust that if there's a
yeah,
hazard that it's going to
Yeah.
be.
yeah,
The other
yeah.
thing that I think helped, like if you're thinking, okay, these roads are really bad, the roads were, it was closed. It was all a closed course. So we
That's right.
had
Good
the
point.
That's nice.
That was
entire
so
road,
nice.
right? So you had the entire road. So if there was a bad section, like I said, as long as,
You had both directions on the road.
yes,
Yes.
yep, yeah.
Yes,
And
completely
so
closed.
you could avoid, right? Like you could avoid people.
Yeah.
There was no traffic anywhere. So you had tons of space that if there was a pothole, if there was something, you could avoid it. You have to check your shoulder. You hope people are saying on your left, or like, you hope that,
Hmm.
anyway. So there was lots of
Yeah,
space if you did come across a really bad section to find another line. So,
yeah,
and if everyone's keeping their space like they're supposed to, then, it could have had a very successful ride. And I
yeah.
liked
I
the
want.
ride. I actually loved it. I loved the 3 sections
Yeah,
out, and it was easy for my brain to comprehend.
yeah,
Okay, I'm 60K
Yeah.
in. Okay, now I go out this section. Now this section. Now this section. Now I'm 120. Okay, now my brain loved that course. as far
So
as
I
did
agree. That was
compartmentalizing.
good. I liked it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Originally, I thought, gosh, 3 loops. But the way that the loops were structured with those like 3 individual little legs, it was just really easy to kind of tick those off as they went. And the one thing I also want to add as a positive, before the race, I thought, oh gosh, the first loop may not be that bad, but I was concerned about the course being really crowded on loops 2 and 3.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I don't know about you guys,
it
I
wasn't.
never felt like it was crowded. Part of it
Nope.
might have been that the pace, like my first loop was really good. My second and third were okay, not what I wanted. I think also what Angela mentioned was the fact that we had the whole road. We had, both directions of the road. But I never once felt like I got stuck in traffic and I was worried about a drafting penalty or, I got boxed in. So that was really a
Yeah.
pleasant surprise.
I
Yeah, I
second
love
that.
getting
Thought
stuck
it
in
was,
traffic.
yeah. And I also agree with Angela. I loved the fact that it was, you could take like, oh, this is the short section. That's a little bit longer. That's a little bit longer. And since I was racing with my husband, we saw each other all the time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Back
nice.
and forth, or he passed me, I passed him, or whatever. At one point when he caught up to me after the swim, we were riding side by side and kind of like talking about the swim. And the race official came over and was like, hey, break it up. And it's like, we could have definitely gotten an impeding, penalty or whatever. But he was just like,
Blocking penalty.
there was no, but like you said, there was not a whole lot of traffic. So it wasn't even like,
Yeah.
there was really nobody
Yeah.
behind us trying to come through. But he was just
Yeah.
like kind of jokingly like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, break it up.
I mean, you avoided a blue card.
We did it.
Yeah, the I've talked about it before on some courses where you only have like one lane, that traffic. And, every once in a while you see like a whole peloton of usually
Mhm.
guys just kind of
Yeah.
floating by and
I didn't see that at all.
blocking the whole thing.
Yeah. There
I
were a
did
couple
get past
groups.
a couple of the fast guys and girls going, on their, I guess,
Yeah.
second or third loop. But again, like the whole road, they were just, okay, fine. I'm like, all right.
Nice. Okay. So all three of you enjoyed the bike course. See,
Thumbs
when
up
I
the
saw
bike course.
Yeah.
Oh, and one other thing on the bike course. Angela, I think you alluded to this earlier, and I heard some grumbling like, oh, I thought it was supposed to be flat. Oh my gosh, it was flat.
It was flat.
There were maybe
Yeah.
a couple of little inclines, but most of them, I didn't even need to get into my little ring for.
Yeah, I don't think I got out of the big ring at all.
So it was
big ring only.
2,000 feet of climbing over 112 miles. So it was a flat course. And honestly, those little rises were a nice break,
They were.
from just like the flats all the time. From that perspective, I don't know what California is, but this might be the flattest course on the North American circuit.
California was pretty flat. I think it was a little flatter than that. But
yeah.
like California, also flat gives you the wind. And I did find on this course,
Yes,
the
right.
second loop, I was like, oh my gosh, the wind picked
Mhm.
up, it shifted. Now
It
I'm
did.
on a crosswind. There was one section, I think by that airfield where that no passing zone was next to the airfield,
Yeah.
where I was like, I can't drink, I can't grab my bottle, I can't do anything because my bike is just going to get blown off the road. So
interesting.
there were a couple of wind issues, and I never was
I forgot about that.
sure which direction the wind was going. Was it helping me? Was it hindering me? One point, I'm like, I'm flying. I look down, I'm like, oh, I'm going like 15 miles an hour. That's not okay.
Yeah.
I'm pushing it, and the wind was just coming right at me. But other times you're like, oh, this is great. Did I slow down? And you look down, it's like, oh, I must have a tailwind. So
Yeah.
I never knew what to expect with the wind. I just took it when I could and pushed through when I couldn't. But there were a couple of crosswind sections, especially on that second lap, where I was like, that's a little
Practice for Kona.
Yes.
So
yes. And that's what I kept thinking. I'm like, okay, I can, if I'm doing this and, my the bike time was not great, but like my bike experience was really good. I mean, in terms of like I don't have a power meter, but I'm
Your
sure
execution.
I wasn't pushing too many watts because I felt great off the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that worked. So yeah.
I don't know that I could survive without a power meter at this point. I'm so used to having it.
Training
Same.
run.
I know.
I didn't want to have any expectations. This was all about training and getting through and doing it, and just nutrition. And I didn't want to look at power at all. I was like,
I totally get that. So I think when we talk flat, I just looked up Ironman Maryland because I know like in the Northeast, like a lot of people go and do that because it's flat.
Oh, yeah, right.
460 feet across the 112.
Oh, that is pretty flat.
Okay.
So, like,
yeah, that's flat.
That's flat, right? That's what, like, 10, 15 feet per 10 miles.
That's
It's not
crazy.
that much, right? Okay. So the bike, was reasonably flat. And I agree with you. Like, to me, I've never done an Ironman with that little elevation, right? Even Texas has twice that on the bike. Okay. So you said it was split transition. So T2, what was T2 like?
Well, first of all, bike handlers. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I heard there's no bike catchers at Kona, I was disappointed. I'm like, I love it when they have bike catchers.
I know, it's so
It makes
nice.
life so much nicer.
So much nicer. Yeah.
Cuts down your
Yeah. So
transition, huge.
yeah. So bike handlers, and you come out of T2 like right there on, it's like, I think Mackenzie or McGregor. I don't know what the road is, but there are so many spectators. And I want to say for this race as a whole, even out at the farthest points on the bike, there were spectators. The
Yes.
farthest points on the run,
Really?
there were spectators. There were spectators on the run course. You come out, you get to a certain point, and then you do 2 loops of that, and then you come back and you finish. But there was this group of spectators. They were there all 4 times I went by, and like everyone was cheering and encouraging, and some was in French and some was in English. But I think this was probably, of all the races I've done, so which is like 20 races, total, the best spectators and fan support, especially in some of those darker moments for me. It allowed me to get out of my head and, engage and think about, okay, just keep moving one foot in front of the other.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like on the bike, there was spectators everywhere. Like you probably didn't go, a kilometer, a couple kilometers, and there would be someone else. Like you were not alone
Oh,
anywhere
wow.
on that
Yeah,
course.
never.
Yeah. Even at the farthest points because there's bike trails along these roads too. So there people would bike out or they'd park along the road, and they were everywhere. Yeah. Which was nice.
That's pretty awesome. Although if the course was closed to cars, I think they were probably trapped there. So they couldn't
No,
leave.
because so what it is the
Not for
way
the-
the course is,
yeah,
they're parkways, like, and then the people just park, like you could park
Okay.
under, like my brother came and he parked under the overpass, like the parkway goes over the overpass. So he parked
I see.
underneath, he could drive under there, and then they just walk up the hill and they're there. Or there's the
Yeah.
like bike
I've
trails
been on.
along the side. And so there was lots of
Yeah.
cyclists who would stop and they would cheer, and then yeah, there just seemed to be
Yeah,
people everywhere on every part of the course.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how
I agree.
Texas is.
Yeah.
There's a road that goes next to the highway, and people just park there and hop the fence to spectate.
Yeah. So you come out in of transition T2, and you've got all these spectators, and the run course. To me, the run course was kind of like the bike course. It was advertised as being flat, and generally it was flat. But you come out,
Not completely.
and you make a turn. Right, you make a turn onto Rideau Street, which is right by the Fairmont. And there's kind of a long, gradual climb. I'm like, just put it in a low gear and suck it up and start walking. And so you go up that street, and then you kind of go around some, down some hills and turns and whatever. And I remember seeing the directional arrows coming the other way. It's like, holy fuck, pardon my French.
Have to
We're
come
going to have
back
to come
this
up
way.
these hills at the finish. But I'm like, okay, don't worry about that now. Just think about that later. But then you get out and you're on a road that basically parallels. I think it's the Rideau Canal, and then is it the river, Angela? But anyway, it's very flat. There, like the bike, a few little rises, but there was never anything that I would really call a hill on the run course. So I felt like that was very much as advertised.
So
What about you guys?
So I'm curious. So the athlete guide does not list an elevation gain at all on the run.
It didn't?
No, there's no elevation profile.
Well,
Oh, I
so
thought there
somebody posted something recently where like last year it was listed as a flat run and now it's listed as a rolling run or something like that.
I saw that too.
I thought it was flat in the athlete guide.
It is listed as
It was flat in the athlete guide. I have to say, coming down that first ginormous hill, well, the one and only ginormous hill.
Yeah.
At like the 1K mark was like, oh, okay. And I saw it on the elevation guide. So I knew it was coming, but it's just like, okay. So my quads are on fire from this bike because I'm in, aero the whole time. And now I'm going down this hill. So that was a little bit of a shuffle. And then I saw the third, I think it was the second or third male coming in, going up the hill. And I'm like, right, we have to run up this hill. And then I'm thinking, are we turning around on top of the hill? Like we have to do this like twice? But whatever. Once we got out, I'm kind of in the camp where I don't think this was a flat course. I mean, I think there were a lot of like gradual uphills that you didn't really see, but you could feel. And I thought that there was a couple of rollers that were sort of like, okay, this wasn't up and over. I didn't find it that flat. But again, it's no Placid. It was not like
right.
like River Road.
Yeah. Oh God, River Road and that hill coming up to Main Street. Angela, what did you think? Did you think it was flat?
Well, so I walked a lot. Like I walked a lot. My nutrition didn't pan out, so I ended up walking a lot. And it's not I've done Mont Tremblant and then I've done Muskoka a lot, and those have hills, like where you're like you got to put your hands on your knees to walk up a hill, right? Like if you're walking, like the section, like when I was coming to the end, it definitely wasn't flat, but I kind of felt like, and I don't feel like I'm actually that qualified to talk about because I walked so much, right? So, but there was nothing where I
you
was
were
like,
there.
oh God, I got to walk up this. Like when I was walking up the hill, it wasn't, I don't know. So I agree it's not a flat course and they've changed it now to say rolling, like for 2026 for the run. But coming up the very last hill just behind Parliament, just before like at 41K or whatever, it actually felt really good to come up that 10% grade for like 20 seconds or whatever, because I was like, oh my gosh, my legs, like I'm stretching out my legs. So, which I laughed at myself because I'm like, you're at 41K and you just want to get to the finish line, but you're like, this feels good to actually change the way the muscles that I'm using. So yeah, it wasn't flat, but it also wasn't crazy. But again, like I said, I walked a lot, so I wasn't running, so I don't know how that feels.
I walked a lot too. And that was, I know I saw Cheryl and mine was not my nutrition plan. At least I don't think it was, because I have struggled a lot with nutrition in my previous races. And I've worked with a nutritionist, and based on, what I normally look for, are things going off the rails with nutrition? I didn't have any of those symptoms, but I saw so many people uncontrollable vomiting early in the run. And I was able to push through it, but I use water and then pick up Martin gels on course. Like I couldn't even get a Martin gel down. It was like just to even try to swallow it. And I know I saw a lot of people vomiting. Now that can be that their electrolytes are out of whack or they're dehydrated, but I know for me personally, that was not the case. So I don't know if it was smoke or if it was just the heat or what it was, but I was disappointed in my run because I walked so much of it. But
me too.
I finished, and
we should catch up later because I have some ideas on why that might be with it.
Okay, all right, good. Down. Okay, good, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard of the vomiting. I talked to someone who vomited every other mile on their Ironman, and they still had like a 2:30 run, and I'm like,
oh, I couldn't do that.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. And like, was it a nutrition problem? They're like, no, my belly was just unsettled on that day. I guess it's better to go nutrition. Up and down.
I don't know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And like I saw one post that was like, well, was it the water quality? And somebody else said, oh, well, my husband tested the water quality and it was fine. Because I didn't think that it was from the water. I don't know. It's just, one of those
really
days.
Quick. If it was the water in the swim, that would be really
exactly. Fast. Yeah. I didn't think it was that, but yeah, I probably saw more people vomiting there than I have in Kona.
I agree. When I was coming down that hill right after, so like in the first 5K, I was actually surprised how many people were walking already. And because, you just usually don't see that so early in the race. So yeah, I agree. And I did hear a lot of people talking about unsettled stomach. I had a very unsettled stomach that I was ignoring, but also was not able to choke down the gels that I was supposed to be choking down, nor drinking the tailwind that I brought with me, nor anything that I was supposed to be doing did I do. So,
well, I mean, it sounds like that probably didn't help.
That what, Joe?
I said it sounds like that not following your nutrition plan probably didn't help the case.
No, it landed.
When you can't get it down or keep it down.
Yeah.
Like I resorted to Coke and potato chips and just trying to keep some stuff coming in along with water. But
was it
just one of those days?
Was it the Mortal on the course for the
I don't do Mortal.
Or was it
I do precision capsules. Yeah.
I didn't touch the Mortal either.
But it was Mortal that was on the course.
Oh, yeah, that's what they offered.
Yeah,
it was Martin 160s. I believe they had the Martin Solids, and then they had Mortal May.
It was the 160s they had on the course?
Yes, the 160s, which was weird. I felt bad wasting them, but I'm like, I can't get down a whole 160. I'm not going to carry it with me.
Yeah, I love
my husband said that too. He was surprised.
I love the 160s on the bike, but when they have it on the run,
Yeah.
I'm always like, what? These are huge for a run.
Yeah, I know. I guess lucky for the volunteers when they were surplus and they got to take them home.
Yeah, I mean, those
I overheard one of the medical people in one of the aid stations saying, there's a really big concern because nobody's taking the mortal. Nobody's taking the electrolytes. I'm like, yeah, no, we've all been talking about not taking the mortal.
Everybody brought their own.
Yeah.
I think most people brought their own, Or
they didn't, and that's why they were vomiting.
Yeah, every time I use
it was
the mortal, I get headaches and
I think that's from the stevia.
Unsettled. Yeah.
They took it out. I just saw, did you see that in the
did
newsletter?
They? No, what did they?
I got an order from the feed, and they had a big newsletter in it, and Mortal took out an ad, and it said, "All right, you've roared, we listened, stevia is out." And
what are they using instead?
I don't know.
Sugar.
I'll have to look it up and see what their sweetener is now. Yeah, just pure sugar, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we've been screaming for now a year and a half is like, put some glucose in it, please.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Instead of tricking the finish line, thinking that it's there.
Yeah, I have to say the finish line. Again, at that point I was walking. I had blisters on the balls of both feet.
Ooh.
So it was. I've never had that before in a race. So I'm still smiling, power walking. But like the spectators when you come around the corner on whatever that is, McGregor, and they're just like they were just amazing, so encouraging. And then the finish line itself, the athlete food, poutine and pasta and gelato, three or four flavors of gelato. Yeah, it was
tomato
good finish
soup.
line. Good
there was
tomato soup. And they had real beer, 4 different kinds of beer, not athletic, but they had real beer.
See, I'm a fan of the athletic because that's what we drink at home.
Yeah,
me too.
No, it's nothing against the athletic, but
you want like the real stuff.
Yeah. It did not sound good to me, but I'm like,
no.
You can tell this isn't this isn't an American race because they've got beer instead of athletic. But it was good.
I don't know. My expectations for finish line food is generally pretty low.
Yeah. This was really good finish line food.
I had my family bring me a Fairlife, like high protein, just chocolate milk at the end, and a cheese pizza. Like I was like, I just want to know what I'm getting. I want to know that it's going to sit well so that I can refuel. So I did get some poutine, had bite just to say that I did it.
Yeah, I just had the fries. I didn't think I could stomach the gravy and the cheese curds, but the fries with the salt were delicious.
I bet they were. Get some starch in you and some salt. So I'm curious. We've all done Ironman races. We've crossed many finish lines. What is your post-race ritual at this point?
Depends on if I go to medical or don't go to medical.
All right, let's assume that medical is not part of your post-race.
Generally, it's hopefully meet up with my husband, who usually races with me, and burger and a beer. Just go find a pub and have a burger and a beer, and we talk about the race, and generally I fall asleep before I can eat more than like 2 or 3 bites, but that's usually.
How about you, Angela?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't do I have a ritual like this? Like I said, this year I said to my family, bring me this and bring me this. And I was really glad I was able to eat it because after my previous 2, I haven't really felt like eating. So I kind of finished and went, okay, like I'm feeling well enough to eat. And once I had like my Fairlife, I was like, I actually feel really I feel good now. And my family was there. We chatted. We went to pick up my bike. We walked back to the hotel. I usually take a shower and then an Epsom salt bath and then put my massage boots on and fall asleep with my massage boots on usually. And I'm like a later finisher too. So I always say to myself, okay, I just want to get myself sorted and then I'll go back to the finish line because it's not too long. But then I'm like I couldn't do it. I haven't been able to do it yet.
I always mean to go back to the finish line.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
How about you, Elizabeth? What's your kind of post-race look like?
In my last handful of races, what I like to do is I'll go to the athlete food area and the salty fries and a Sprite. So a little glucose, a little salt, always settles really well. And then, get back to wherever we're staying. Usually my fiance, Craig, it seems like most of the races we've traded off. So either he's racing or I'm racing in the full distance races. And so go back to wherever we're staying, take a shower, and then I like to then go out and get something to eat because usually at that point I'm starving. So sometimes just standing in front of the refrigerator eating leftover pasta out of the Tupperware container, but I wish Cheryl a burger and a beer. And that's what I really wanted on Sunday night. And I was staying in the Fairmont, which is right there by the finish line. And their restaurant, they had the finish line camera going in the lobby. So, they weren't oblivious to the fact that there was an Ironman.
Right.
But their restaurant didn't stay open late. So I got there at 10:50. Sorry, the kitchen just closed at 10:45, and room service, everything was pre-prepared. And they had a BLT, which sounded so good to me. I'm like, so you're going to bring me a BLT and the bacon's going to be cold? No, that's okay. So I ended up having a salad.
Oh,
I know, it's just wrong. I was so hungry at that point that I was going to eat anything.
yeah. I was surprised. We saw that at Lake Placid too. Talk about a town that's used to this kind of stuff. And still, like most of the restaurants closed at like 9.
But down at Bayward Market, like right past
Byward Market.
Byward Market, right, the opposite direction from the Fairmont, was hopping. It was this
Really?
Irish. The bars were out. It was.
That's what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you needed to go. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I should have probably told you because that's where my husband.
Yeah, I wish I had known. We would have.
Oh yeah, that was our plan because we parked over there at the garage and we were like, all right, that Irish
that's
pub,
right. Yeah.
We're going there, and we did our pre-race dinner there. It was just a
Nice.
great spot, nice spot, and it was open very late. So
my soon-to-be husband, when we first started dating, he realized very quickly that after any endurance race, we somehow always managed to find ourselves in a steakhouse about an hour after crossing the finish line. I'm like, yeah, and there's nothing like
Yum.
a good piece of beef after.
Yum.
Got to refuel.
Yeah.
We don't need a whole lot of red meat, but after a full, like a standalone marathon, we always just eat the steakhouse.
Yeah, it's the same for us. I don't need a lot of red meat. They do, but after an endurance race, you better believe it.
All food stuff is off the table. Everything is.
It's like I earned that.
Fair game.
Yeah.
All right. So we've been chatting for quite a while about the different aspects of the race. I'm curious, what was your highs and lows? So Angela, why don't you go first?
My high, I would say, was getting out of the swim because the swim was so choppy. And my goal going in, though, was just go in, have an easy swim. Like it's not going to make or break you. So have a nice, easy swim. But kind of coming out of the swim, I had a decent time for me. So I was like, yes. So I came out of the swim with a really positive attitude and saw the people I wanted to see in transition and had great volunteers helping me, got my stuff on, got on the bike. Felt pretty good. Besides the fact that I had my tires, I thought they were inflated properly, and then I got on. And I was like, oh, they feel a little like not soft, but softer than they should have. And I was like, okay, well, what do you do here? Like, because it's going to be a bad course. Anyway, like all these things going through my head. But then I had a great my bike. I actually stayed quite positive the whole time, besides having a few little issues. But I stayed really positive. So I went into the run with a super positive attitude and thinking, okay, I can do this. I've been working on my run a lot lately. I've been getting a lot stronger, and I walked a lot my first 2. So I was like, this one, I'm not going to walk a lot. It's going to be great. And I was like, I might even finish in the light. And I was so pumped. So that was I was on a complete high starting the run. And then actually, Elizabeth, it was right when you passed me on the run around the backside of Parliament there. It was like all of a sudden, I was feeling so amazing that I was going to have this great run. And it's like the world just imploded on me. I was like, it is so hot. I am so hot right now. All of a sudden, just I've probably never felt that kind of bonk before, but I was like, okay, I need to walk. And I kind of started walking. I was like, okay, after you get up that hill, you're going to start running. And I did. And I was like, okay, you can do this. You can do this. But then it was just I'm still trying to figure out exactly what happened, but I went from feeling so high to so low all at once, and then being like, okay, it's okay. You can get this back. You can get this back. And it just never came back. And I had a really disappointing run because I had felt so good going in and I felt so great at the beginning of the run, and it's very quickly just nosedived. So that was super disappointing. I crossed the finish line. My goal is to just never go to medical. So if I have to slow down, slow down, slow down so that I can cross the line standing and with a smile on my face, that's my goal. So I did that. So I guess I was successful, but just disappointed in the run part after feeling so high. So it is what it is.
Okay. Cheryl.
Points. I think that the volunteers, I just can't say enough about the enthusiasm, the helpfulness, the cheeriness, the positive attitude, just everyone knew what they were doing, and the amount of volunteers helping and just being incredibly excited to be there and excited for us. It made such a huge impact, I think, for the whole race, from the bike, people in the tents, the people giving out water on the bike. The run aid stations were amazing. I think it was a very, very well supported race. One of the high points was that my husband didn't catch me until mile 45 on the bike, which is, that I think that's a record for me. But I always get out of the water first, and he always catches me at some point. And I think this was a pretty good distance. I was happy with that. I'm happy that I felt great on the bike the whole time. And this was a training run for me, so I wasn't even sure I was going to do the run. I'm not really fully trained for the run for a whole marathon. About 5 or 6K in, my Achilles started hurting, and I, for whatever reason, didn't pack K-tape anywhere. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to not push through this, because if I hurt my Achilles now and can't train the rest of the way for Kona, that's not okay. So I slowed down. I walked a lot. I probably walked 90% of the second half of the race, of the run. But again, I'm a really social person. So just being able to talk to people, like, saying hi to Elizabeth or my husband, at somewhere right after the turnaround, some young, like, he must have been like 30, saw me walking, and he kind of was like, hey, how's your day going? Like, it's, it is whatever, but I'm probably going to walk. He's like, great, I'll walk with you. We walked the rest of the race together. I just chatted, and he's like, oh, I'm so happy I ran into you. You're keeping a good pace. I'm like, 4 miles an hour is a good pace. Great. Okay. So yeah, I was trying not to do what I usually do and do the negative thing. I was doing the positive thing, in that I'm going to finish this race when I didn't know whether I was even going to do this last leg. So yeah, so I felt really good. The second thing that was really amazing is my brother-in-law, my husband's brother, and his family live in Kingston. So they drove over, and we saw them on the bike course and on the run course a few times. Nice. And it just made my day, because nobody ever comes to our races anymore. Our kids don't care. My parents are too old. It's just nobody. If I'm not racing with a team, or I don't know anybody on the sidelines. So to have somebody cheering was it made my day. So yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So high point and low point. I'll start with the low point. So for me, the low point came around the end of the first loop of the run. Like I said, I was having issues with nausea and vomiting. I'm trying to problem solve, because I've never had an Ironman go according to plan. So how do you problem solve? Get some chips. But the darkness happened so early for me in this race. And those thoughts of, well, I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to drop out when I get to the turnaround. And you know what? I'm going to drop out of Kona too. Just like the darkness was so bad.
But you got through it.
Yeah. So then it was, well, you have some other options. You don't have to quit. You can, you don't want to walk. You had really big goals for this race, but you can walk and you can finish, because, I raised like $7,000 in the couple weeks leading up to the race. Well, what are you going to say to those people who donated money? Well, I quit because it was hard. Well, of course it's fucking hard. It's Ironman. If it were easy, everyone would do it. So, those things, and I want the medal, and, just like all those things, that bargaining that goes on. And so, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was the low point for me, of just having my run. And I felt like I was very well trained for the run. My legs felt great when I came out of T2. And so it wasn't really my legs. It was, the heat and whatever else. So that was the low point, that the run just didn't execute it the way that I expected to and the way that I wanted to. But my high point was crossing the finish line and conquering all of that adversity and making myself just keep moving forward, because it would have been so easy to quit at that turnaround. My future stepdaughter was there, and she was just like so encouraging, like, I'm going to be here, just like do whatever you need to do. And so for me, what I'm trying to take away from it, I'm not quite there yet, but what I'm trying to take away from it is that that through all of that adversity, I finished. So that was my high point.
Awesome. And you know what they say, it's an Ironman. It's supposed to be hard. And we do hard stuff because it's hard. All right.
I wish we had been a little closer on the run, Elizabeth, because I think like when you're alone in that, it's so much worse. But when you have somebody else like lightening things up a little bit, or just to, I don't know. I had this kid, Daniel, and I were just like cracking jokes all the time, like, but we're doing a 10-minute kilometer. Like it just was, it took away a lot of that real negativity. And I wish I kept seeing you, but we weren't close enough to like catch up but if we could have walked in a little bit of more of a group, I think it would have been.
That's one of the things I love about this sport is everyone on the course is supporting each other.
Yeah. You're all in it together.
I've seen that so many times on different courses in different states and countries. And it's just so consistent. And it's one of the things I've come to love about triathlon in general. All right. So the big question, would you do it again?
Yes, absolutely.
I would. I'm going to go back next
year. If I
year.
ever do an Ironman again, this one would be on the.
If you
I'm
ever
gonna
do an Ironman again.
Volunteer next year. So I'm going to head up to Ottawa, go volunteer, be part of the whole vibe. And then my son, actually my 11-year-old son, on the drive home, he said, "Mom, how old do you have to be to do an Ironman?" And I was like, 18. And so he's like doing the math. He's like, okay, so you'll be like 57 when I'm old enough to do it. Do you think, he goes, I want to do one. I was like, oh, that's amazing. I said, like, that's fantastic. He goes, but do you think you'd like to do it with me? And I was like, I could do that. So so maybe we'll be doing, if it sticks around that long, which I hope it will, maybe we'll do Ironman Ottawa together when he turns 18.
Yeah. The funny thing with us is my husband looks at an Ironman and says, no way in hell. My son is a runner and he's done like sprints and he does well with them. He's, podiumed a few times, but he's like, yeah, no. And then there's my daughter who does not run, likes to bike, but isn't that strong on the bike, likes to swim, but is not very good at it yet. And she's like, can I do one?
And the answer is yes, you can.
Good example.
The answer is, but of course,
yes, you can.
But you got to work for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Any last words before we?
I think that this Ottawa course, I don't know, but I feel like maybe the guys and girls who are super fast might be the ones who are like downing it. But I honestly feel like this would be a perfect beginner course. Like if you were just starting out.
Agreed.
And this would be a perfect first course to kind of just like try out Ironman because you like, maybe you're probably biking a little bit slower so you can avoid those potholes, and I feel though like it would be an amazing first time Ironman.
I don't know if people still look at Arizona as a first timer course, but I would say that this beats Arizona hands down as a course for first timers.
I think Arizona scares a lot of people because that swim is so cold.
It's cold, and like they find bodies in that lake. It's gross. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining me to talk about Ironman Ottawa. It's been great conversation. For listeners, I hope this was useful. It sounds to me like, Ironman and the race director and the crew and volunteers pulled off a great first race, and can't wait to see it next year. And on that note, thank you very much for joining us. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. It's available on every streamer out there and YouTube. And we'll see you again next week. All right. Thank you, everyone.